The scream tore through the comms, raw and jagged, cutting across the silence of the void. Commander Daniel Harris said, "What the hell just happened?" His voice cracked, half command, half terror. The channel hissed, a broken transmission clawing at the ears, like a human soul shredding in real time. Dr. Elena Ramirez said, "I heard it too, Dan. Someone's mic is live, but..." Her words dissolved under the distortion. The sound wasn't human anymore, or maybe too human. A gasp, then silence. A whisper followed, faint, slithering, "Don't let them know." And then nothing. The channel collapsed into static so deep, it felt like drowning. Harris clawed at the console, his breath ragged, pulse wild, as though sound itself had betrayed him. Ramirez pressed her helmet closer to the feed, whispering, "That wasn't feedback. That was a warning." And space, in its perfect cruelty, sealed the moment with silence, as if mocking their fear. In less than 30 seconds, hope curdled into horror. The mission was no longer theirs. It belonged to the scream. Silence pressed against the cabin, heavier than gravity itself. Harris said, "That wasn't one of ours." His voice tried to steady itself, but the quake beneath gave him away. Ramirez floated closer, eyes sharp, searching his face. She said, "There were only 3 of us on this channel. So tell me, Dan, who screamed?" Her voice cracked on the last word. The console lights flickered once, then stilled, as though even the machine feared to speak. Harris swallowed hard, the memory of the scream burrowing into his skull, refusing to let go. Somewhere, beyond the steel walls and endless dark, the void seemed to breathe. He muttered, "We're not alone up here." The words were swallowed instantly by static and silence, as though space itself wanted to bury them. The air tasted metallic, recycled too many times, like fear itself clung to each breath. Ramirez whispered, "This isn't mechanical, this is human." Harris rubbed his temple, shaking his head. He said, "We need confirmation from Houston." His words rang hollow, like he didn't believe them himself. The comm light blinked once, no reply. Just the faint hiss of background static. Ramirez's chest rose and fell, her breath shallow. "If Houston heard that," she said, "they'll bury it before it reaches the news." Harris turned sharply, eyes narrowing. He said, "Then we're already buried with it." The silence following those words felt like a coffin being sealed. The cabin lights flickered, a faint electrical buzz crawling over the walls. Harris muttered, "Systems clean, no faults." Ramirez floated closer, eyes fixed on the console. She said, "Then the fault's not in here." Her voice was sharp, certain. The air felt thinner, their breaths louder. Somewhere something scraped faintly through the comms, like metal against metal, far away. Harris froze. "That wasn't us," he whispered. Ramirez looked at him, the fear in her eyes reflecting his own. In the silence after, the ship itself felt alive, every panel vibrating with unseen weight. It was not malfunction. It was intrusion. Static flared again, jagged like broken glass, filling the cabin. A whisper cut through. "Not supposed here." The voice was distorted, unrecognizable, yet human. Harris lunged toward the console. He shouted, "Identify yourself." No answer. The whisper faded into silence so fast it felt stolen. Ramirez pressed both hands to the comms, eyes wide. She said, "They're listening. Whoever it is, they're on this channel." Harris's pulse thundered in his ears. "This isn't Houston," he said, voice dropping to a whisper. The cabin went black for half a second as the lights cut, then returned with a hum. It was long enough to know they weren't alone in the signal. Commander Daniel Harris floated back in his seat, the scream still echoing in his skull, but another ghost pressed closer. He remembered Grace's voice before launch, brittle with hope. Grace Harris said, "Promise me, Dan. No more accidents." His jaw tightened. He had promised, and he had lied. Dr. Elena Ramirez drifted near, watching him with narrowed eyes. She said, "You're not telling me everything." His silence was louder than denial. The cabin felt smaller now, the stars colder, his chest heavier. Somewhere deep inside, guilt stirred, the memory of Athena, oxygen hissing, Owen Hart gasping his last breath while Harris watched. Helpless. He muttered, "Not again. Not this time." The words slipped out like confession, and Ramirez's sharp intake of breath told him she heard too much. The message screen blinked with a delayed Earth transmission. Grace's voice filled the cabin, tender yet weighted with fear. Grace Harris said, "Daniel, Owen's mother still calls. She blames you. I can't defend you forever." Harris's breath caught, shame slicing deeper than any silence. He pressed his forehead to his glove, closing his eyes. Ramirez hovered close but said nothing. The words from Earth cutting deeper than her questions. The voice recording ended with static, but the silence afterward rang like judgment. Harris whispered to himself, "I can't let this happen again." His reflection stared back from the black glass, a man already condemned. The comm crackled again, this time Houston's voice slicing sterile and cold. "Capcom Vera Patel," said Commander Harris, "disregard prior anomaly. Focus on mission parameters." Harris's jaw flexed. He said, "We heard a human scream." Patel replied, "Telemetry shows nothing, do not speculate." Ramirez muttered, "They're covering it up." Harris's pulse surged. He remembered the investigation panels, the reports rewritten to clear NASA's name after Athena 3. He felt the same script being read again, the same denial. He whispered, "They'll bury us before they admit the truth." Patel's voice cut again, "Proceed as instructed, Commander." His chest ached with rage. Later, in the dim silence, Ramirez broke it with a low voice. She said, "I read the Athena report. It didn't match survivor logs." Harris stiffened, eyes darting away. She added, "You lost someone, didn't you?" He forced his breath steady, but the memory struck hard. Owen's final scream, the hiss of atmosphere escaping, the cold vacuum stealing life. Harris said, "I carry him with me every day." Ramirez's face softened, her suspicion replaced with sorrow. She said, "Then don't let his ghost kill this mission." Harris clenched his fists. He knew ghosts had already boarded. Harris drifted near the cabin window, the void vast and merciless beyond the glass. His reflection looked older than he remembered, a man worn down by guilt. Grace's last words haunted him, "Come back to us, Daniel." He whispered, "I can't fail again." Ramirez floated beside him, voice steadier now. She said, "You don't have to carry this alone." Harris turned slowly, eyes heavy with doubt. In the silence, he realized space was not the only void he faced. Inside him was another, hungrier, waiting to consume him if he let it. And still, the memory of the scream gnawed like a wound refusing to close. The ship's hum faltered, a low tremor running through the hull. Harris said, "That's not a systems check, that's interference." Ramirez tightened her grip on the seatback, eyes scanning the panels. She replied, "Telemetry shows nothing. But it's there, Dan, I feel it." The floor plates shuddered like a living heartbeat. A faint echo crackled over the comms, too distorted to decipher, but enough to knot their stomachs. Harris whispered, "It's watching us." Ramirez shot him a look, fear hidden beneath defiance. She said, "Machines don't watch. People do." The silence afterward was worse than sound, like a presence breathing just out of sight. The comm unit hissed alive, a new voice spilling through. Unknown voice said, "You shouldn't have come." Harris lunged forward. "Identify yourself," he barked, but the voice fractured into static. Ramirez whispered, "That wasn't Houston. That wasn't anyone on Earth." The console flashed error codes that didn't exist in their manuals. Harris clenched his fists, his chest aching with the weight of déjà vu. He muttered, "Athena 3 all over again. Warnings nobody listened to." Ramirez turned sharply. "Then why are we still here, Dan? Why keep flying into the same silence?" His eyes met hers, haunted and defiant. "Because this time, I refuse to look away." The lights dimmed to near black. Harris' heartbeat thundered in his ears, louder than the silence. He said, "Manual override now." Ramirez pushed toward the console, her fingers trembling as she keyed commands. Nothing responded. She hissed, "It's locking us out." The ship systems flickered again, messages scrolling across the screen in distorted fragments. "Not alone. Stay silent." Harris slammed his palm against the glass. "Who's doing this?" His voice cracked with fury. The console went dark, leaving only their reflections staring back. Two humans trapped, two ghosts waiting to be born. A sharp crack split the air, like metal groaning under pressure. The hull vibrated, sending loose tools drifting upward. Ramirez shouted, "Hull breach!" Her voice rang sharp. Harris scanned indicators, breath ragged. "No alarms," he muttered, "but it wants us to think so." Ramirez's eyes widened. "You think the ship is playing with us?" Harris forced himself still, though dread clawed inside. "Not the ship, whoever's inside the signal." The cabin seemed to shrink, the walls pressing tighter. Every breath felt rationed, every second another trap tightening around them. The intercom flared again, a single phrase cutting through with chilling clarity. "One of you doesn't belong." Harris froze, eyes darting to Ramirez. She stared back, her breath quickening. Harris said, "It's trying to turn us." Ramirez shook her head, voice sharp. "Or it's telling the truth." The silence between them was sharper than knives. For the first time Harris saw suspicion in her eyes, and he felt his own mirror. In that moment, the void outside was not their enemy. The void had already entered the cabin, lodged between them like a blade. The cabin pulsed with silence until Houston's voice returned, too sharp, too rehearsed. Capcom Vera Patel said, "Commander Harris, confirm integrity of crew. All." Harris exchanged a look with Ramirez, unease rising. He said, "Why ask that now?" Static hissed, then Patel repeated, clipped and cold, "Confirm integrity." Ramirez's jaw tightened. "They know," she whispered. The air felt heavier, charged with betrayal. Harris muttered, "They're not warning us, they're checking if the lie still holds." The channel cut, leaving the cabin steeped in dread. Ramirez whispered, "What aren't they telling us?" Harris already knew. The scream wasn't a malfunction. It was a secret trying to surface. The console flickered again, but not with telemetry. A hidden feed bled through, files buried deep in the system. Ramirez drifted closer, voice trembling. "Dan, these are mission logs we weren't cleared for." Harris scrolled the text, heart pounding. It was transcripts of prior screams, dates predating their launch. He muttered, "They've heard this before." Ramirez's lips parted in disbelief. Athena 3, it wasn't an accident. The weight of years collapsed onto Harris, every lie, every panel hearing, every denial. His voice cracked. "We were sent here to bury the truth, not discover it." The ship groaned, metal echoing like a dying breath. Harris said, "Athena wasn't a failure. It was a cover-up." Ramirez backed away, fear etched into her face. "You knew," she demanded. Harris shook his head, voice breaking. "I suspected. I wanted to believe the reports." Her hands trembled as she floated, anger and sorrow tangled. "So they lied to us too," she whispered. Harris' chest tightened with guilt. The betrayal wasn't just from Earth. It lived inside him, festering since the day Owen Hart died. The void outside looked merciful compared to the truth inside the cabin. Another voice cut in, colder than Patel's, distorted but clear. "Protocol demands silence." Ramirez spun toward Harris. "That's not Houston." He swallowed hard. "That's the agency itself." The voice continued, every word a nail in their coffin. "Transmit nothing. Survival contingent on obedience." Harris's throat tightened, fury rising. He said, "They don't care if we live, they care if the story dies." Ramirez floated closer, face pale. Then the scream. It wasn't theirs to explain. The cabin seemed smaller now, walls suffocating, betrayal, choking them more than the vacuum ever could. The final file opened without warning. A video feed, grainy and unstable. Ramirez whispered, "That's Athena 3. Figures in Eva suits drifted across a wrecked cabin, their comms filled with the same scream that had torn through moments ago. Harris's chest seized. Owen Hart's face flashed in static, his final gasp repeating like a curse. Ramirez covered her mouth, eyes wet. They sent us to the same graveyard. Harris couldn't breathe. His voice broke. We're not explorers. We're witnesses. The feed cut, leaving silence heavier than truth. They were trapped in someone else's lie, and the stars looked colder than ever. The cabin shook as the ship's alarms screamed to life, a mechanical howl echoing the human one they could never forget. Harris shouted, "Manual controls now!" Ramirez clawed at the console, her breath sharp. "They've locked us out," she cried. Panels flickered, warning lights bleeding red across their faces. Harris slammed his fist into the controls, sparks pitting. "We're not dying for their silence," he roared. The void outside pressed closer, stars trembling like cold eyes watching. Ramirez's voice cracked. "Then what's left, Dan? Fight them or fight each other?" The words cut deeper than the alarms. The voice returned, colder than death. Integrity compromised. One must not return. Harris froze, Ramirez's eyes locking on his. She whispered, "They want one of us dead." Harris felt his chest hollow, guilt roaring up from the past. He said, "It's me they want." Ramirez shook her head violently. "No, they'll kill us both if we play their game." But her trembling hands betrayed her certainty. The silence thickened, no longer empty, but weighted with the command of unseen masters. The hull boomed, a thunderous ripple tearing through the ship. Harris grabbed a railing, pulling Ramirez in before she drifted. "Oh, we stay together," he yelled. She shoved him back, eyes blazing. "If we do, we both die." Her words tore through him like a blade. The memory of Owen's last breath struck again, the guilt pressing so hard it felt physical. Harris whispered, "I won't watch another crewmate die." Ramirez's voice broke, soft but sharp. "Then don't make me the one to choose." The console blazed again, but this time, the feed was live. Patel's voice broke through, stripped of pretense. "You are expendable. Secure silence." Harris roared, "You lied to us. To Owen. To everyone." His voice cracked into a plea. Ramirez drifted close, whispering, "Dan, stop. They'll hear everything." He shook his head violently, fists trembling. "Good. Let them choke on their own lies." The ship seemed to echo his rage, panels rattling, alarms clashing with his fury. Ramirez grabbed his arm, her eyes begging, "Don't let them take you too." The ship plunged into blackout. Only the stars outside lit their faces, cold and merciless. A final whisper crawled through the comms. "Choose." Ramirez's lips trembled. "Dan." Her eyes searched his, fear and trust entwined. Harris felt the decision press like a blade at his throat. His voice was a rasp, broken but fierce. "I won't let them write the ending." He reached toward the manual override, knowing it meant tearing the ship from their grip. In that silence, survival balanced on the edge of betrayal. The void itself seemed to hold its breath. The manual override slammed the ship into silence, alarms choking off in an instant. Harris's chest heaved as the controls flickered faint green. Ramirez floated near, her voice small. "You broke their chain." Harris stared at his shaking hands. "I might have broken us too." Outside, the stars hung endless, watching like cold gods. The comms hissed faintly, but no voice came through. For the first time they were cut loose, free or forsaken. Ramirez whispered, "So now, it's just us." Harris closed his eyes, guilt and defiance colliding. "Then we end this on our terms." The ship drifted without command, untethered in silence. Ramirez pressed her forehead against the window, Earth a glowing marble in the void. We could still go back, she whispered, voice heavy with longing. Harris floated beside her, his reflection fractured in the glass. Go back to what? Lies and ghosts? He exhaled sharply, fogging the window. The silence of space wrapped around them like a shroud. Ramirez's voice cracked. Then what's left, Dan? To just vanish? Harris's gaze stayed locked on Earth. To tell the truth, even if it kills us. The console sputtered back alive, garbled transmissions fighting through static. Patel's voice snapped. Harris, you've compromised mission security. Harris leaned forward, voice low but sharp. No, I've saved its soul. Ramirez grabbed his arm. Dan, they'll cut us off completely. Harris's eyes burned. Then let them. I'd rather vanish in the dark than crawl home in chains. Patel's reply was clipped, cold. Then you've chosen your legacy. The line died, final and merciless. Ramirez's shoulders sagged, tears brimming. Harris whispered, Owen deserved better. So do we. Ramirez drifted back, her voice unsteady. Dan, if we send the logs, we can't undo it. They'll hunt our families, our names. Harris' chest tightened, Gracie's voice echoing in memory. Promise me no more accidents. His eyes closed, pain searing. If I stay silent, Owen's death means nothing. If I speak, maybe someone listens. Ramirez trembled, torn between fear and conviction. Finally, she whispered, then I'll stand with you. Harris looked at her, the weight of betrayal cracking into fragile solidarity. In the void, they were no longer alone. The transmission uplink blinked, waiting. Harris's hands hovered above the console, the weight of choice pressing harder than gravity. Ramirez floated beside him, whispering, do it. He pressed the key, the hidden files bleeding into the comms. Every scream, every log, every truth poured into the void. Harris whispered, we may not survive this. Ramirez answered softly, but the truth will. The cabin hummed as the signal launched into the stars, a confession written in static. For the first time since launch, Harris felt the guilt loosen its grip. The cabin was quiet now, except for the low hum of the transmission system, still bleeding secrets into the void. Harris floated near the window, his body weightless but his heart a stone. His reflection merged with the cold stars outside, as though he had already become one with them. Ramirez whispered, do you think they'll reach anyone? Her voice cracked, heavy with exhaustion. Harris kept his eyes on Earth, now just a pale marble in endless dark. They'll reach someone, he murmured. Maybe not in time for us, but someone will hear. Someone has to. The silence stretched long, a silence that was no longer empty but thick, with truth too large to contain. Ramirez touched the glass, her hand trembling. It feels like they already know we're ghosts, she said softly. Harris pressed his palm beside hers, separated by glass, joined by fear. Better ghosts than liars, he answered, the words heavy, final. The console flickered one last time, not with Houston, not with Patel, but with a voice both alien and human. A whisper crawled through, layered like many voices speaking as one. Witnesses are chosen. Silence cannot hold. Ramirez's breath caught, her body tense. That's not them, she whispered, eyes wide. Harris leaned forward, his voice ragged. Then, it's what Athena heard before the end. The whisper crackled, repeating fragments of their screams, as if mocking memory. Harris felt the weight of the past, Owen's gasp, the deception of the agency, and the impossible presence that had now claimed them. He said the void doesn't want silence, it wants truth. Ramirez closed her eyes, tears floating free like tiny orbs. And it wants us to pay the price. The voice faded, but its echo lingered, a mark carved into their bones. Darkness swallowed the ship as the uplink drained its final power. Only the stars lit their faces now, merciless and unblinking. Ramirez whispered, if this is the end, at least we weren't silent. Harris' chest ached, memories clawing through. Grace's last plea, Owen's last breath, every betrayal that led here. He whispered, we weren't silent, but we were damned. His voice cracked, but there was no shame in it anymore. Ramirez drifted close, her voice fragile but certain. Then we go out, honest. That's more than they ever gave us. Harris closed his eyes, feeling the weight lift even as the cold deepened. The void pressed against the ship like an ocean against a coffin, but in that silence, Harris found something that almost felt like peace. The transmission system sparked one last time, sending a pulse into the dark that carried their voices farther than any ship could travel. Harris whispered, "Grace, I'm sorry," his words meant for Earth, for a memory, for the stars. Ramirez added, "If someone hears us, tell them we tried." The ship groaned faintly, its structure tired, failing. Harris gripped the console, his strength failing too, but he pressed forward, his words steady. "The truth is free now. It doesn't need us to survive." Ramirez leaned close, her forehead touching his shoulder. "But it remembers us." Together, they drifted in silence, their voices already part of the transmission, echoing across eternity. The stars outside gleamed like frozen fire, endless and uncaring. The cabin was silent now, utterly still. The last whisper of their transmission carried into the void, words faint but immortal. "We were here." Harris's reflection merged with the night, his features vanishing into infinite dark. Ramirez floated beside him, her eyes closed, lips parted, as if in prayer. The hum of the ship's systems faded, leaving only the eternal silence of space. And yet, in that silence, their voices remained, drifting through the cosmos, unbound, eternal. Not explorers, not survivors, but witnesses. The scream that began it all was now a song of truth, carried beyond stars, impossible to erase. The mission was over. The echo would never die.